of that is going to be an issue for the government. Countries like Japan already sending a message that they'd be very concerned about some sort of levy that gets slapped on. But there's plenty of momentum there for it.
Jacob, thank you very much indeed. Talk to you soon.
My pleasure.
Our interview with Sting still to come, but first to the Northern Territory, which has been hit by a damaging wet season with 2 cyclones and the worst flooding since the late 1990s. Matt Garrick travelled to Katherine, 300 kilometres south of Darwin, where the Defence Force has moved in to help clean up.
I've been here for 18 years now. It's something I never expected.
We'll just work together as a big team because...
Emergency efforts underway to clean up flood-hit Katherine in the Northern Territory.
So is that cool? Everyone okay with that?
Quite a few people in those lower lying areas, here included, have lost their livelihoods, lost their home possessions and in some cases lost their homes entirely.
Earlier this month, on March 7, Katherine River broke its banks, triggering the town's worst flood in 28 years. Streets swamped and highways cut off for days.
We're basically going to be stripping out the room entirely, bar the TV and the bed frames.
Around 50 Defence Force members were deployed last week from nearby Air Force Base RAF Tyndall. Today they are helping Joanna Pace, who owns a resort that was inundated.
We had around 15 cabins damaged, and that includes all the mattresses and all the different furniture that comes in those areas. So this group has come in to remove all of that. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. You do a great job. Thank you so much.
It's been quite confronting. I've got quite a few young aviators that have just moved up here from other areas in Australia, and they're confronted with some of the stark realities of living in a remote location and the environment at its worst.
Defence says it went through 159 houses. The full damage bill is still unknown, as some businesses continue to pick up the pieces.
Oh, there were just dirt, soil, just everything everywhere, things upside down, bins were at the other side of the park. It was just an absolute mess.
This service station and campground are among the businesses trying to salvage what they can.
Woke up at 5 a.m. and I was ankle deep in water inside the donga. So I had to get my friends to ring around, get the police to come and rescue me. But I was a little bit worried, like, how deep is this actually going to get in? Will a croc swim past and bite my leg off?
Next stop for the ADF, Myali Brumby Aboriginal community on Katherine's northern outskirts, where 8 homes were flooded.
You can see a faint line of where the water actually risen right up to.
Once the ADF leave, it's local tradesmen who have the daunting task of repairing damaged homes, which is likely to take months.
It makes me feel upset for the people that actually work hard, you know.
Community leader Murray Man Alan Mole says while people are now focusing on repairing damaged homes, they're also questioning whether the evacuation alert came too late. With little warning, emergency shelters wouldn't have food.
Our people don't have access to large amounts of food in their houses where they can just pack up a bag and take food with them. So you don't have access to food, then people start getting very, very nervous because they think that they're not going to be able to feed their children.
People have been asked to make sure they've got 3 to 5 days of food on hand. I do understand that in Aboriginal communities they don't necessarily always have that much food on hand, but I didn't speak to one person that wasn't grateful for the help, the support.
Jo Hersey is Katherine's local member and a minister in the NT government. She's lived through all of Katherine's major floods in 1998, 2006 and now this year. Her home was flooded each time.
There's definitely an element of PTSD when you know, it's that anxiety. It's just the smell of the flood mud that you can't describe, but anyone in Katherine that's been through a flood would know what that's like.
Many here live on the river's edge.
We'll go and have a look at these markers now.
For Greg and Darylyn Wright, it's been their home for 48 years, and they're not going anywhere. But this month's floods hit them hard.
So we couldn't see that 19.
Couldn't see the sign.
Couldn't see the sign.
This one was a roaring torrent. Even the roar of it was loud. And if you have a look around the block, you can see where it just tore things apart.
Yeah, no, just not going to be able to save a lot of them, are we?
Is it? Isn't it what it is?
What it is.
Save what we can.
I don't know, just getting a little bit older, I suppose, and just accepting it, you know, like, and you lose so much, and yeah.
In a cruel twist of fate, this week Katherine faced another major flood threat after tropical cyclone Narelle brought huge amounts of rain across the top end. A temporary hospital was set up in the town in preparation. But as of this evening, it seems the town has been spared. Some minor relief for those about to rebuild.
Just get on with it. You just pack it all up, throw it all out and start again.
This week, Israel announced plans to expand territory under its control in southern Lebanon as its military presses ahead with a campaign against the Iranian-backed militant group Hezbollah. Middle East correspondent Matthew Doran reports.
It might look like an ordinary day at the port of Sidon, but there are some new faces watching the catch come in. They're recent arrivals from Nabatea, half an hour away. Lebanese citizens fleeing from Israeli airstrikes. Makeshift shelters line the road into this city, Sidon, or Sida as it's known to locals, becoming something of a safe haven.
I have people sleeping on the streets. They refuse to go to a shelter in the north.
شو إحساسي؟ إحساسي مدمر، شو بدي؟ إحساس ما في شيء، لا شغل فيه، لا عمل فيه، حياة منكوبة شو.
Israel is demanding the evacuation of the area from the border all the way north to the Zahrani River, close to Sidon, and it's now announced plans to occupy more than half of that territory.
מאות אלפי תושבי דרום לבנון שהתפנו צפונה לא יחזרו דרומית לנהר הליטני. העיקרון הוא ברור. יש טרור וטילים, אין בתים ותושבים, וצה"ל יימצא בפנים.
In the 1980s, this was a city under Israeli occupation for almost 3 years. The memories of that period are still incredibly raw, and there is a fear it could happen again, particularly as Israeli displacement orders continue to creep further and further north towards the outskirts of Sidon. The city and its surrounds have been attacked by Israeli forces, including one strike on a car in the centre of town.
Really, it's a hard time for us here in Sidon and for the south. Sidon has been hit more than 6 times till now, and it's really devastating. We've seen bodies of children and women, buildings hit in the early morning without any warning. We used to be warned of a certain area to be hit or a certain building, but nowadays, no.
The mayor says funds are running low to support almost 30,000 displaced people. They started flooding in hours after Israel retaliated against Hezbollah, which entered the war in solidarity with Iran.
فالساعة 2 إلا 10 بدق جاري فقال لنا ضربوا الحزب بصواريخ وعم بيضربوا يلا عجل بدنا نهرب.
We have about 70 families with 300 individuals, men, women, children, elderly. Some are people with special needs. and we have children of all ages.
The staff running this shelter are unfortunately well versed in crisis response. They've had to do it over and over again.
The South has a long history of occupation and war with Israel. A very long history. And now I'm an old woman. I cannot tell you how many experiences already I went through.
I think history is repeating itself.
هذا حرب أقوى حرب ما فيش مرحبين بجميع الفئات عم يضربوا عرفت كيف؟ هنيك كانوا يحددوا يعني الحرب مثلا مش كل اللبنانيين هيدا كل اللبنانيين الحرب
انه ما شبعوا دم بقى يعني مش عم يشوفوا على التلفزيونات كيف ناس عم تفقد اولادها.
To this point, Israel has been targeting bridges, this one south of Sidon, the military claiming it's trying to stop Hezbollah terrorists moving north, but criticised for willfully destroying civilian infrastructure and isolating communities.
Any new arrangement between us and Lebanon in the future, we have to declare an area a buffer zone, a demilitarized zone, a limited exactly as we have in Sinai with Egypt, exactly as we have with the Syrian regime in the Golan.
Dr. Jacques Nellier argues the Lebanese state has refused to control Hezbollah, and the militant group is now facing the consequences for its actions.
We know that Hezbollah has rented houses from civilians and turned those houses into fortifications. They have put depots of weapons inside in civilian houses. They have done the same in Christian villages.
While the south is being pummeled, this is a crisis being felt across Lebanon, particularly in the capital Beirut, with bombings in the heart of the city and many of the more than 1 million displaced seeking refuge there. Despite all that's happening, allegiances to Hezbollah are still clear to see, even as this war tears at the very fabric of this country.
For millions of people, the music of Sting is the sound of their lives' highs and lows. After bursting onto the British scene with Police in the late 1970s, the singer-songwriter and guitarist went on to have a long solo career, often collaborating with the world's great musicians. Now he's taken inspiration from his childhood in the north of England to compose a musical, The Last Ship, which will be staged at the Queensland Performing Arts Centre in April with Sting and reggae singer Shaggy. I spoke to Sting in Miami. Sting, welcome to 7:30.
Nice, good day, 7:30.
Well done, you. Now, you're bringing the relaunch of one of your grandest shows ever to Brisbane. Tell me, what is The Last Ship of the title?
The Last Ship is a story set in my hometown, which is a little shipyard town in between Newcastle upon Tyne and the North Sea. I was born and raised there in the shadow of a shipyard. I didn't appreciate it at the time because it was a terrifying, surreal industrial environment, and I'd watch thousands of men walk to work every day, to work in that yard, which seemed like an infernal hell. So I did everything in my power to escape that fate. I became a musician and then a successful musician and was in the world. And at one point in my life, I realized that I had a lot to pay back to my community in terms of my identity, my work ethic, my sense of self, were all forged in that place that I didn't appreciate. And so The Last Ship is my way of saying thank you to my community, to the people who brought me up, to my parents, to the people I knew. It's a love story, really.
I read that you had a significant writer's block in the years preceding you starting work on The Last Ship. If that's correct, why did thinking about Wall's End and your childhood release you from that writer's block?
I mean, that's rather dramatic to call it that. I'm sure I did, but you know, it is rather dramatic. But I think when my parents died in the late 80s, they both died in the same year. I went back there, obviously, to say goodbye to them, and it coincided with the closing of the shipyard. And that seemed like some sort of metaphor presenting itself for me to grieve. So I wrote a song and an album called The Soul Cages, which is really where the germ that became The Last Ship was started. I always thought it had a theatrical potential. I mean, a shipyard, it has an operatic scale. It's massive. The ships used to tower over our house and blot out the sun for most of the year until they were launched into the sea. So those were very profound, powerful symbols for a child to grow among. And I'm grateful for that now. I think it was a very stimulating environment, and yet at the time I didn't appreciate it. Now I do. So I'm bringing The Last Ship all the way to Brisbane next month, and I'm so looking forward to it.
There is a character, of course, loosely based on you. Both writing that character, perhaps. Well, let's say there's a character that's got some touch points with your story.
Yeah.
What's it like watching at least a version of you performed on stage, indeed next to you, because you're in it too?
Yeah, I'm playing the foreman of the yard, and I suppose I'm channeling a sort of amalgam of people I did know who worked in the shipyards. I'm channeling my father, I'm channeling my grandfather.
What have we got? What have we got? We've got notes. We've got notes.
But the lead, who's a character called Gideon, I suppose loosely is me when I was younger, although it's not entirely biographical, but there are elements of me and my life woven through the play. So it's an interesting kind of out-of-body experience for me, both being on stage and watching someone else play me and sing my songs, as it were. So it's a kind of fascinating psychological drama that goes on every night.
Your siblings still live in Wallsend, I understand. Obviously, they've got used to you as a megastar over many years. But what was it like for them coming to see this show? Did they like it?
My siblings came to see us play in Amsterdam, where they really loved the play. We got fantastic audience response and great critical response. My brother was a wreck. He wept throughout, in a good way. It was very cathartic for him. My sister was tougher, but my poor brother was a wreck.
What's the catharsis in there?
I think, there's a lot of our family history there, the complex relations between fathers and sons is very much one of the tropes of the play, and so it's tough. It's not Aladdin. It's quite a serious piece, but fun.
Given what a hugely personal project this is for you, as well as all of the creative activity going on, are you difficult or easy to direct?
I listen to reason, and I'm very open. And I'm definitely not a prima donna.
Well, I think the answer is you're easy to direct if that's the case, but we'll check in with the director, of course.
I think I'm very easy to direct, Sarah.
I believe you. I want to ask about your creative process and how it's changed. Obviously, you've been writing songs for decades.
I think it gets harder. The less you know, the more confident you are. And the more you know, it gets more difficult. I'm constantly in competition with my older work, and it has to be better than it was when I was 25. Now I'm in my 70s. It doesn't get any easier, and yet it's a very satisfying struggle. And when I do write a song, well, I'm very happy for about 20 minutes, and then the anxieties come back, and I have to write another one. But that's my life.
20 minutes isn't bad.
It's not bad, is it?
It's not bad.
Maybe half an hour.
Okay, we'll give you half an hour. And in terms of the way your creative process is working, do most of your songs come out of a chord or a riff, a chord change, a riff, or from a lyric, an idea?
I'm always looking for some novelty that I haven't discovered before. You know, I play every day, and my fingers will find something that intrigues me, and I say, oh, I'll follow that path. Where does that lead me, and what does it remind me of? And the same with lyrics. A lyric will occur to me, and it could be a refrain, and I'll work backwards from a refrain. What does that refrain mean? There's no one way of writing a song. They can occur to you at all different times of the day, locations, moods, and so you just have to be kind of open, in a state of grace, I suppose, openness to the universe, saying, okay, here's a song for you, because it's there to be discovered.
Do you ever fear that creates?
I do fear that. And then I would wonder what my purpose is. So I think my purpose for most of my life has been to tell stories and tell them in the form of songs, narratives, the 3-minute narratives. That seems to be my skill, and I built my life and my career on that. So yes, of course, there's an anxiety. I mean, I've done quite a bit, but I don't want to rest on my laurels, as it were.
No, that's not an interesting place to sit, is it? You said about the current show, the anxiety caused by the end of shipbuilding when that happened is similar to the fear people now have around AI, that the ship seems to me to be a good metaphor for that, looming but also with menace. When did that idea occur to you?
I mean, my community was under threat for my entire childhood. They were always waiting for the next order, and when the next order didn't come, the town died. And of course, your identity and everything, and all the social problems due to that being unemployment, were very to the forefront of everyone's mind. And I think, as a society now, and we are all faced with this anxiety of, can we be replaced by machines? The answer is we can be. So I don't really have an answer to that, except that in the play, the answer is the spirit of community, of being together. The agency of women is one of the tropes in the play, the powerful nature of the women's solidarity. I don't know the answer for us versus AI. I don't personally fear for me as a creative spirit, because if AI can make perfectly serviceable pop music that you would hear in a hotel or an airport, but would you actually listen to it? I can hear it when it's AI, and I know that it's never had its heart broken, that it's never been in love. And it doesn't really have a story. I want to hear the story behind the song. And so I don't really think we can be replaced in that way at the moment.
Sting, for all the joy that you have brought us, for what is clearly still a brilliant creative mind at work, thank you, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Sarah. It's been a pleasure talking to you. I hope you'll come and see the show.
I'd love to. It sounds fantastic, and the pictures are out of this world. See ya, and good luck with the show.
Good day, everybody.
There's a longer version of that interview available on YouTube. I hope you can tell how much I enjoyed myself doing that. That's the programme for this evening and the week. If you missed any of our stories, you can catch up on iView. Thank you very much for your company. Good night.
New to ABC Listen.
In 2007, 4 people, including a 5-year-old girl, vanished in Western Australia.
The family lived a bizarre alternative lifestyle.
Did they run away, or was it murder?
He's a very odd guy.
I just wished I'd asked a lot more questions.
we're digging into one of Australia's most baffling missing persons cases.
Something wasn't right.
Expanse, the Nan Up 4. Search for the Expanse podcast on ABC Listen or wherever you get your podcasts.
Tonight, Cyclone Narelle bearing down on the WA coast with the chance of reaching Category 5. The US talks up the prospect of peace with Iran as it sends thousands of troops to the Middle East. Sweeping sunscreen reforms proposed to potentially get rid of SPF numbers. And former Brisbane Lion Lee Ryswick becomes the first openly gay AFL player. Good evening, Yvonne Yong with ABC News, coming to you from the land of the Wurundjeri people. Preparations across a large swathe of WA's coastline are gearing up as severe tropical cyclone Narelle continues its path south. The now Category 4 system is moving southwest, almost parallel to the Pilbara coast, and due to its larger than usual size, it's already seeing destructive winds pummel Karratha.
Cyclone Narelle making her arrival known, sending gale force winds through Karratha Thursday morning before strengthening to a Category 4 system. Those in her path leaving nothing to chance.
Just drove down from Karratha and just basically straight into it. Been up all night, sandbagging.
You just got to get out and basically strap everything down. Everything becomes a missile.
Others making the most of their freedom before the call comes to shelter indoors.
Narelle's been building momentum as she moves down the coast, and residents here in Exmouth are about to feel her force with wind gusts up over 190 kilometres per hour expected overnight as towns further down the coast prepare for impact.
Locals and buildings in Carnarvon well prepared for these events.
Because it's cyclone rated, we don't have a lot of structural damage. It's tree damage and damage on the plantations, which is our main industry here.
The indications are from the Bureau that that will be on or about the crossing time, expect to be at Category 3, but there may be a period during the passage of the cyclone overnight where it could transition up to 5 and then start to degrade from there.
Narelle's journey across the country far from over, with the system expected to make landfall Friday evening before weakening as it tracks southeast towards Perth. Bridget MacArthur, ABC News, Exmouth.
The Prime Minister's called another emergency meeting with state and territory leaders to coordinate a national response to the ongoing fuel crisis. While the government insists supplies are secure, more than 500 petrol stations have tonight run out of either diesel or petrol.
Fear and frustration building at the pump and in Parliament.
A plan is better than panic, and panic is where we're going.
Why the needless secrecy?
It's a national crisis. We need a national solution.
Under pressure, the Prime Minister's called a National Cabinet meeting for Monday.
I want us to have the strongest possible plan so we're ready for what may come.
As the states still grapple with supply, more than 520 servos have run out of at least one type of fuel. New South Wales by far the hardest hit, followed by Victoria, Queensland, Western Australia and South Australia.
The fuel stocks are there. Pick up the phone and tell the companies to move the stocks. It's simple.
The shortages mostly caused by panic buying as Australians watch prices hit new highs. Unleaded today, $2.56 a litre. Diesel, $3.14. While confident supplies are secure for now, the states are demanding a national approach on measures like working from home and rationing if it gets to that.
We have to act in unison.
Any response to a shortening of supply should be a nationally coordinated one.
There is some tension between a federal government wanting to project a sense of calm and states wanting to lay the groundwork now for potential changes to come. Having learned the hard lessons from the COVID pandemic, premiers are openly calling for a far more coordinated approach this time around.
The end of the war in the Middle East can't come soon enough.
With cost of living on the rise, the government is pushing for a pay rise above inflation for the 3 million workers on the minimum wage, making a submission to the industrial umpire without nominating a figure. Inflation running at 3.7%, unions want a 5% increase in the minimum wage, businesses backing 3.5%.
We recognise that it is a volatile environment. That is why we haven't put a number on this.
Uncertainty abounds. Jane Norman, ABC News, Canberra.
And as the economic shock from the war deepens, the White House has confirmed a US deployment of thousands of troops to the Middle East. But the Commander-in-Chief is still talking up the prospects of peace, despite Iran's public rejection that negotiations are happening at all.
Rescue workers search for survivors after a fresh wave of strikes in Tehran. Buildings in residential areas are being obliterated as the White House threatens to hit even harder if Iran refuses to accept defeat.
President Trump does not bluff, and he is prepared to unleash hell.
But it remains unclear if the president is unleashing soldiers or diplomats. The Pentagon has confirmed the deployment of airborne troops in the coming days as Donald Trump talks up the prospect of peace talks to end the war.
They are negotiating, by the way, and they want to make a deal so badly, but they're afraid to say it.
Iran has confirmed it's reviewing a proposal from the White House, but says no peace talks are taking place.
Messages being conveyed through friendly countries and us responding by stating our positions is not called negotiation.
There are reports that officials from both sides could soon meet in Islamabad to thrash out a solution aimed at ending the wider